I think it's just simple. There's thousands of black cops in America, and you've never seen white folks have to march because some black cop have misused them. You never see no white people on TV say that black cop shot my son in the head 40 times. Now the question we ask, is that because we're more spiritual or better trained? No, black cops know white folks ain't gonna tolerate it. And when we stop tolerating it, it stops.
Ramarley Graham, they shot him. Alan Bluetooth, they shot him. Ken Chamberlain, they shot him. Kendrick McDade, they shot him. Derry Simmons, they shot him. Bo Morrison, they shot him. Wendell Allen, they shot him. Justin Sip, they shot him. Scared rappers, be quiet. Scared preachers, be quiet. Scared leaders, be quiet. You in the presence of warriors. It said scared rappers, be quiet. Scared preachers, be quiet. Scared leaders, be quiet. You in the warrior face, boy. You can't call this a race war, cause we the only ones that got hate for. They get shot down when the gauge war, but we always willing to take more. From Emmett Till on that lake floor to Trayvon, Rakia boy, Mumi and Troy. Yes, we destroyed for some public enemy. Y'all bring the noise. Marissa Alexander, they locked her. Jasmine Thar, they shot her. They keep trying to kill us, but they never get indicted. Our people crying loud, but these scared rappers stay quiet. And if we don't get justice, do we need to start a riot, huh? Do we need to start a riot? Need to start a riot? Do we need to start a riot? Need to start a riot? Do we need to start a riot? Need to start a riot? Do we need to start a riot? Need to start a riot?
My name is Henry Keith Watson, and we're at Florence and Normandy, Los Angeles, California. Today, rest in peace, Rodney King passed away. Here it is 20 years later. Like I said, stand our ground. Y'all know what to do.
In 92, them riots blew. Peace treaty, ray of lights were blue. In LA, the Crips and the power rules. Put aside the fuse and start riding true. To the end, no I was behind the two. The police came in to divide the crews. They still a homie's car, then driving through. Another gang soot, then fired a tool. Our unity is our biggest weapon. When I ask the question, you feeling threatened. But imagine a child being killed for less than 45 days for the killers arrested. Mad at me cause I'm giving a message. But if we can get killed by Zimmermans and they can get off cause of privilege, then are we really citizens? Get beaten to death, you an immigrant. Go back to your countries and sentiment. They call us monkeys, say we ignorant. So if we get killed, they don't give a shit. Now what would you do if you was living this? To protect your kids from this. If your child got killed, would you live with it? Would you slit your wrist? Would you get the fifth? Would you care about the job or your benefits? If they said they murderer was innocent, no judge, no trial, no sentences. And you saw how foul this system is. But they keep telling us to be patient. They keep telling us to keep waiting. They keep telling us that we hating. And when we kill cause we black, that we racist. Hal Morgan, they shot him. Then for 40 years they locked him. They keep trying to kill us, but they never get indicted. Our people crying loud, but these scared rappers stay quiet. And if we don't get justice, do we need to start a riot, huh? Do we need to start a riot? Need to start a riot? Do we need to start a riot? Need to start a riot? Do we need to start a riot? Need to start a riot? Do we need to start a riot? Need to start a riot?
So again, for those who weren't here yesterday, my name is Jasiri X. I'm a hip hop artist and activist, originally from the south side of Chicago, based in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. One of the founding members of an anti-violence organization called One Hood. If you go to the number onehood.org and get more information. And about 3 years ago, we started the One Hood Media Academy, where we teach black youth how to analyze and create their own media. I'm in the Pittsburgh area. I did this song around, really this was 2012. And I did it for two reasons. One, it was the 20th anniversary of the LA rebellion. And so when we shot the part in LA, when we were on Florence and Normandy, which was the flashpoint of the LA riots, we're there with about 10 brothers and sisters. We all got Stand Our Ground shirts on. And a brother rode up to us on a motorcycle basically saying, "What are y'all doing?" He didn't care that we was there with 10 people. He's regulating the community, regulating the block. I don't know if anybody recognizes Henry Watson. He actually was the man that pulled Reginald Denny out of the truck on Florence and Normandy when he was beat up during that time, and was very unapologetic about what he had done, did his time, and came out and was telling us 20 years later that the conditions that created the LA riots were still the same. And he's still, I guess, regulating the black community. So when he came up to him, a friend of mine recognized him. We asked him to be in the video. Of course, at the beginning of the video was Dick Gregory, a longtime activist, organizer, comedian. That was at a silent march that the NAACP did in New York City. It was a silent march on Father's Day. But that also was a response to a report that the Malcolm X grassroots movement did in 2012 about extrajudicial killings of black people. 313 black people were killed by the police in 2012, which equal 1 every 28 hours. So if you've heard hashtag 1 every 28 hours, if you heard people use the saying 1 every 28 hours, it's a report by the Malcolm X grassroots movement. You can actually get it online. It's called Operation Ghetto Storm if you want to go into some more details about that. I thought that would be a good place to start just because of what happened. And, when we talk about, the individuals we have on the panel coming from Baltimore and Ferguson, you're talking about people that went through a real organized resistance against a police state. So I want to play this clip of Faraji Muhammad, who was recently speaking about his experience in Baltimore. Where are the leaders? I guess we're looking at one of the leaders right now. So this is Faraji Muhammad on CNN.
Muhammad. He's a Baltimore peace activist and radio host. Thanks, Faraji, for being with me.
Thank you.
So, standing directly behind us, members of the Maryland National Guard carrying some great big guns. How does that make you feel?
It doesn't make me feel good at all. I think that what we're seeing right now is that my city is truly in pain. My community is in pain. And I think that the atmosphere right now is that it furthers the idea that in order for there to be some real control, there has to be some level of violence. There has to be guns present. There has to be. And this is what the very nature of what young people in the city of Baltimore, particularly black youth, are fighting each and every day. You got police outside of high schools. You got police interaction, the negative police and contentious relationship between police and young people. So this is what we're seeing every day. So this is not helping. And so essentially what we've been seeing, especially from last night as we were out in the community at North in Pennsylvania, what we saw last night is that as much as there was damage to property, as much as there was damage and fires and everything, there was pain, Carol. There was real pain. And I was, me and my brothers from the NOI and FOI and many other pastors, and we were standing there, and you can hear young people screaming out the names of folks that have been killed by police or who have died in police custody. So they're throwing rocks, and you killed my cousin. You killed my sister. You killed my brother. That's pain. So I think that outside of all of the property damage, we got to talk about the great damage of human beings and the lives that have been shed.
See, I can understand that pain. When
I don't think you can understand that pain, Carol. Really. But that was an excellent representation. Can you just talk about, I guess, where were you? We've been hearing about Freddie Gray. Did you think, there was peaceful protest. Did you think it would come to this? And then kind of where were you when everything jumps off in Baltimore? And then how do you then get involved? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. Carol Costello, she was really cool about just kind of letting us speak and having that opportunity, which is really good. But I think that when we looked at, if the timeline is that prior to this week, last week, there were a lot of protests. Folks were on the ground, and of course, folks were just protesting the situation. There were more protests at Western District, which is about 6 blocks from where Freddie Gray was assaulted and wound up being murdered at. And that was all while he was in the hospital. And then on Sunday was the news got out that he had passed away from his injuries of a severed spine, broken neck. He had contusions, he was knocked unconscious and all of that. So Sunday, a lot of people went down. That was the kickoff for the rallies to take place in the street. So all of that week, all of last week, we kept seeing all of these rallies taking place. And so there was a lot of conversation about, how far will things go? Because even during that week, there was some little hot moments during the course of those rallies. I went down to the rallies on Thursday of last week, and it was still a pretty hotly contested rally. But then you had other folks that came in, and they just, the energy kept building. That Saturday, Malik Zulu Shabazz and others who came into town, and the rallies, that's when you saw the big rally going through downtown. They shut down Camden Yards and all of that. Well, really, what had happened was some of the white Oriole fans were heckling the ralliers, and so heckling young people. And I've been out there prior to this situation. That is very real. We can be marching through the streets and people start heckling us, and they will start calling us names, and they will start. You know, I went to Towson Mall a few months ago, which is a very prestigious mall in Baltimore County, and we did, you know, we tried to do a little demonstration, and I essentially, I walked through the mall with a megaphone, turned the megaphone on, and I started screaming, "No justice, no peace." And this was during the holiday season. This was right when everybody was out for Christmas, and everybody got floored. I mean, I just went to center court, whoop, no justice, no peace, and then I had about 20 people with us. So we were being heckled even from that point. So that's what happened on Saturday, and that's why you saw a lot of young black youth going off the way they did, because of the constant heckling. Sunday came, and that certainly was the thing, but we kind of took a rest from that. Monday was the funeral of Freddie Gray, and then from that funeral, everybody thought that everything was going to be okay. Well, there was a text message that was sent out, and I don't know whether it was a text message sent out by high schoolers, college students, or by somebody who wanted to put some madness out there in the street. But that they said the text message was, we're going to destroy Mondawmin Mall. And Mondawmin is a predominantly black mall in West Baltimore, which is a predominantly black area. So the question to me was, why would you destroy Mondawmin Mall if that's the only place? And so out of that threat, quote unquote, the mall didn't open on Monday. It closed. And then students, literally high school students, and I think CNN showed this, high school students started to come out there, and like 150 high school students. So my phone is blowing up. People like, yo, you hear what's happening? So they looted the 7-Eleven across the street. They damaged that from the mall. The police were called out there, and that's when you saw this ruckus down at Mondawmin Mall. That was high school students. It then transformed from high school students, and it took up the street to North Avenue, and that's when it started kicking off on that Monday evening. Myself and others, my brothers and all of us, we went out there on Monday night. Now, this is before the National Guard came. I wasn't around for the 1968 riot, so I have no reference point. But I just saw a lot of black youth on the street running around. And I have never seen this ever in my life. And it was literally North Avenue in Pennsylvania and North and Fulton is really like a 2-block radius. Never seen this many people on the street before. We got down there. There was so much pain and anger in the air where they were literally picking old bricks. And I saw brothers throwing them on the ground, tossing them at police. So police, the Baltimore City Police, there are only about 3,000 police officers in Baltimore City for a city of 650,000 residents. So they didn't even have the manpower, the resources to really handle the situation. But we came in because these young guys wanted to kill the police. They wanted to absolutely go to war right then and there. So we came in and we became a barrier between the police and the community members. And we had suits and everything on, but we became that barrier because our thing was we need to protect the community because the police was going to just all of a sudden open fire. So while this is happening in one part of the 2-block radius, police cars are being bombed, being put on fire and destroyed. We quelled one situation, and then as we're walking the street, police tried to come through the area. Folks are literally throwing bricks, rocks, everything they could put in their hands to destroy the police cars that was going in. It got so bad, one police officer wound up almost running into 2 buses as a result. And then the armored truck vehicle came that and they totally just tossed and destroyed that as well. Long story short, we were able, I would say by the grace of God, to be able to stop and deal with all of that. We brought a peaceful presence into that area after about 2 hours of telling people not to destroy stuff. Stop it. We were telling the young ladies, get your babies, get them off the street. Ladies, go into the house, because we didn't want to see any young ladies hurt, and we definitely didn't want to expose children to that type of activity. It was a very, very high energy activity that on Monday night. So that's what we were out there doing.
Wow, thank you for going out there in the midst of that. And I think you should be applauded. I appreciate you. You know, a lot of people kind of connect this and kind of look at this as sort of almost, I guess, the sequel to Ferguson and what happened in Ferguson. So I want to bring Mike and Ebony into the conversation. And now, prior to you, were you involved? Like, were you in Ferguson kind of prior to shooting this video?
Yes.
Around. Well, I'm gonna show this video that Mike actually shot, and this was how long after?
10 days.
So 10 days after the killing of Mike Brown, and what happens to Ferguson? Can you just set this up for us? You were doing what?
Well, we had been protesting. I should have one. Can you hear me now? Yeah. Okay, we was out there protesting for over 10 days. Once Mike Brown laid on the ground, I was at a family reunion at that time. And my cousin, she actually stays in where Mike Brown laid at. So actually, my little niece actually witnessed him laying on the ground. And remind you, she's only 4 years old. And she ran in a house with some friends of hers, yelling, "Mom, Mom, they just shot somebody." And when my cousin, her name is Ambril, came outside, she seen a dead body on the ground. My cousin, he drives trucks. So he was trying to get in to get the food so he could bring it to, they wouldn't even let him in his own crib, his own house. So we end up the next day, going out there and protesting with everyone. And it began to get real rowdy. Jasiri was out there. It was so many people. It was people you probably ain't seen in years. You probably went to high school with, maybe middle school with, that was actually out there. And when I can say we unified as a collective whole, I don't care what community was in St. Louis, they was in Ferguson that day. It was people from the south side, the north side, the east side of Illinois, East St. Louis, that had came over there to be in solidarity with everybody that was on the ground. So I was out there a couple of days. I wasn't out there every day because I didn't have a job at the time. Prior to this day that, and we're going to watch the video. So I want to say this. If you can't take it, if you can't look at the video, this will be a great time to, step to the side maybe. Because you are going to see a real murder. And I call it a murder is because you wouldn't shoot a dog how many times they shot that young man. This was in St. Louis.
So were you like coming from a job? Like what? Can you
okay,
set the
the
scene
day
up?
before I was in Ferguson, and I was tired this particular day, and I had a friend of mine that had went to the store, and he came running up to the house like, there's a young man at the store that took 2 sodas and a honey bun, and he set the 2 sodas on the ground, and he threw the honey bun, and he's daring the one of the employees of the store to touch it, and he was going to knock him out. So this is when I approached the scene. Actually, this is the end of it. So now the police gonna pull up. Y'all call the police? He bagging up. Can you stop it right there? I want you guys to notice one thing about this situation. And this is how you know he wasn't that much of a confrontation at all. The young man that walked in front with the brown shirt, that's the young man that came and got me. If you will watch the whole video, you will see me and him walk past, and he actually even talked to the young man and had a conversation with him like, it's not worth it, because we had already realized that the police, and you hear me say, did you call the police? Because the police actually stopped on this side before they even came around that corner, and they actually made their decision on this side of me, on the opposite side of the street.
Yeah, it's a lot of this versions of the video, but I did see the longer one, and
Yes.
to me, because you were right on top of the guy, it wasn't like as you were recording it, he was threatening to you,
Yes.
or because you were kind of you were like, yo, this
it
dude
was
is
a joke. I thought it was really a joke.
off. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't. Yeah, so let's.
He got his gun up. Oh shit. Oh shit. Oh shit. They got their guns out. Oh, they just killed this man.
Notice he's on the ground when you hear those last shots.
Oh my God.
Can we stop it there? Okay, so if you notice one thing about the situation, he wasn't even that close to that man to touch that man. The reason why you see me moving is because there was multiple people behind me, and it was people at the bus stop. And it's a bus stop like right behind me where I was standing. You can actually see me moving left to right, and it was because the officers was pointing a gun towards my way. So that made me realize they didn't even value life, my life. So I began to move back and forth so I wouldn't get shot. I knew something was going to happen, but in my mind, I'm like, I know they ain't going to shoot this man. Mike Brown situation's going on. There's no way they're going to do it. And then as soon as I said that, bang, 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 bang. You hear them saying, put down a knife. But if you take the time and YouTube it and look for yourself, you won't see a knife. I don't care how many times you run that tape, you ain't gonna see a knife. And one of the things Homicide straight came forward to me, they kept asking me, did he have a knife? And I'm gonna tell you like I told Homicide, I ain't see no knife.
And I know before they released the video, the chief of the St. Louis Police Department was saying that, this is Kajimi Powell, was saying that he was holding a knife like this, in this type of motion. Clearly you didn't see, he didn't have his hand up in that way. He actually moved back away from the police, and was really of no physical threat to the officers at that point, before they just opened fire. To my understanding to this day, I still don't think they have released those officers' names. Like the name, have they released the name?
No, they released it the first day, and if you didn't catch it the first day, you wouldn't know who the officer was. They they took it the first day, and the officers claimed they was threatened for their lives, so they took down the post. And actually, Anonymous revealed everything, and they came to me and asked me, was these the officer? I would never forget any faces. I want to point out one thing about this situation, that it didn't matter if you was black or white. The thing was, when they got out the car, they didn't even stop the car completely. It was in a motion when he got out, and he had his gun already out. As I was commentating, and I still don't even know how I commentated that day, because I was in shock. But they literally got out with their guns already held up. You have billy clubs. You have tasers. It's two of you, one of him. You are a trained officer. And to be honest with you, both of those guys are military men. Okay? So you have been trained the proper way to deal with things like this. They made a decision, and that was their decision. They were going to kill a black man today. It was their turn. I'm going to shoot him down, and I'm going to get away with it. And I'm going to say he lunged at me. I'm going to say this, and I'm going to say that. And it was a bunch of lies. If you would hear some of the things Dawson said, and he took, like when he came out there, it was so many people that came from Ferguson. And I want to state this fact, this ain't nothing but 2 miles from Ferguson. 2 miles. Like you can actually ride down McLaurin, and the next street over is Ferguson. So this is how close it is from Mike Brown. So everybody was in Mike Brown protesting, and they came over there like immediately, like a black man's on the ground. He's been shot 12 times. 6 of those shots were when he was on the ground. And the reason why they say they shot him the extra 6 times is because he was moving.
And you know, if you go further, they handcuff them.
Yes.
And this was, what'd you say? Yeah, they handcuff them. And this is for those that don't know, 8 black men have been killed since Mike Brown.
Yes.
We're not even a year from the killing of Mike Brown in the St. Louis area. I want to bring you in, Ebony. So you're, you know, college graduate. You're working as an accountant. You know, I mean, you're doing well. You know what I'm saying? You doing good. What then makes you, you know, as a professional, then say, you know what, I want to get involved in this movement that's happening in Ferguson, in St. Louis?
Okay. Personal story of mine. So I work about 25 minutes away from my house. And St. Louis City, we have about 91 municipalities, which are pretty much just little cities. They spawned from white flight during, there's a documentary called The Pruitt-Igoe Myth, if you want to watch it. It'll get Pruitt-IGOE. It's a documentary about some projects that were in St. Louis. So they expected the population of St. Louis to grow. A lot of the black people from the South migrated up to St. Louis. That caused the white people in the city to move out. And that's where most of those little municipalities came from, is from white flight. So there are certain streets in our city that you can drive down and you will ride through like 10 municipalities. Just on one street, you'll go through Northwood, Ferguson, Moline Acres, Normandy, Bell Ridge, Richmond Heights, Maryland Heights, Hazelwood, Clayton, Ladue. These are just little bitty cities. So my 25-minute drive, there'll be a different police officer from each of these little municipalities on my way to work. And I see a cop like every minute. You see a police officer because they're patrolling the neighborhood. And if you have something wrong with your car, like your expired tag or a headlight, you can get a ticket in each municipality because they all have separate governments. So they all, you know, and especially if they see you get pulled over, the next cop will pull you over. So you're talking about like $100 ticket 10 times in one drive. Me, I don't have any criminal record. But I still am afraid driving down the street. And one day driving down the street, a cop was behind me, and he was driving behind me so long, the cops, they will drive behind people and run their plates. And you can tell what they're doing because they'll run your plate, they can't find anything, they get behind somebody else, run their plate. And they keep doing this until they find somebody. So cop is riding behind me, and I'm nervous. I'm like, oh my God, I can't tell if he's just driving or if he's following me. So I turn, and he keeps going. And I didn't even realize how much of a panic I was in until I stopped, and my heart was going so fast. I have no reason. I've never committed a crime. I don't have any unpaid tickets. 27 years old. I work. There's no reason why I should be afraid of the police. But because I'm black, and because this is what we deal with on a day-to-day, just any interaction with the police, any sight, and I'm immediately nervous. I don't have children, but I have a brother. I have 2 younger cousins. I have a father. I have a stepfather. So every time I see one of these faces, I see one of my relatives. I see what might happen to my sons if I ever have sons. And I don't want to even forget about the women, because there are black women who are being shot and killed and raped, sexually abused by the police as well. So even for myself, now I have to worry that something might happen to me and nothing, and you know, it's just going to be swept under the rug.
No, I think you make a great point, and something that was proven by the Ferguson report. I remember going to Ferguson, and I remember kind of watching it unfold on social media, and a young man had got arrested, and people were raising money online to help get him out of jail, and then it came up that he already had warrants. And so it was kind of this conversation of, well, should we get him out of jail if he already had warrants? You know, should we raise money, or should he have handled that? And I just remember then going to Ferguson and realizing everybody has warrants, really, because of the situation you talked about. You had mentioned a live stream in Ferguson named Bassam, who's Palestinian, he said since he had been in Ferguson, he'd been pulled over 78 times. So that idea, and of course, what the Ferguson report, the Justice Department investigation in the Ferguson showed was that that's how these municipalities make money. Recently we learned about the culture of police brutality in Baltimore. We learned about over 100 cases of police brutality, I believe, in the last year, over $5 million being paid out. So what are we supposed to do? And I'll start with you, Faraji, but this is for everybody. When these are the type of oppressive kind of police states that we live under, how do we function, and how do we get justice?
Question that is being asked all across the country, not just in Baltimore. I feel like the work that we do with AFSC and Piece by Piece, which is the program that I run out of Baltimore, is that we lose sight of one thing, which is the community in which are young people. I'm not in the business of teaching young people how to hold your head low, how to not wear a hoodie, how to not look at a policeman in the eye. We're in the business of raising up young people to have respect for themselves, but to respect those in authority over you. But if you find that they're not respectful, you got to be very strategic about how your interaction with police should be. So as we were out there on the front lines on Monday, and that's my personal experience, when I got pulled over by 3 white officers who didn't ask for my license, didn't ask for a registration. I have a late model vehicle. And they just pulled up next to me, and I said, you got a gun in the car?
That's the
first question.
That's the first question they ask you.
You got a gun in the car?
Second question?
No, sir, officer, I don't. Pull over. 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. Very dark area, West Baltimore. I wasn't dressed like this. I had just dropped off my brother-in-law and had some sweats on and hat. I said, oh boy. So when you were confronted with that reality, and this was on December 31st of 2014. So when you're confronted with that reality and you're confronted with these police officers, the only thing I'm thinking about is going home. You're not thinking about, well, what's my rights? You're not thinking about the Constitution. You're not thinking about all of that. I mean, we have these conversations, but you got to be very honest. There is an inherent emotional response that occurs when a person of police pulls you over. You can call it fear, you can call it anxiety, you can call it nervousness, whatever it is, but at the end of the day, you better be calling it strategic, because a 5-minute interaction with those police could have ended up with me being on the ground.
Yes, sir.
So my father asked me when I got home after I told him what happened, literally it was 5 minutes, and as they were searching me, because they were like, well, can you step out your car? Sir, you don't have a right to step out. No, I'm not going to step. No, I'm stepping out of the car. I was the only person in the car. Can we search your car? You can search my car for whatever you want. Nothing you're going to find. And I knew that they were trying to find something. They searched my persons. But the only thing, and I tell young people, just to answer your question really quickly, is that if you're not strategic, let's live to fight the battle the next day. Because my father said, well, son, you shouldn't have let him search your car. And I said, Pop, if that would have happened, there's 3 white police officers in a dark area in West Baltimore, you probably wouldn't have had a son right now. They could have planted something. But you know what? That was the risk I was willing to take, because I was just trying to go home.
That's right.
So if we're talking about having these conversations, then it means that we need to be very strategic. Know your rights, exactly, but use the great and best of intelligence, and you gotta follow your intuition, your gut, to understand. And then you gotta pray. You have to say something and say, you know what, I hope I can get through this experience safely and calmly. So I think that if we're gonna have it, I think it's the focus of any type of solution starts with the individual. As Ebony said, if she's going to have that type of response, then I tell young brothers to stay calm. Don't try to be so. Don't put yourself out there emotionally. Stay calm. Answer the questions. Keep your hands up where it can see them, and that's what it is. Like, you just gotta follow the rules on some cases. You can challenge them, but you gotta be very, very careful and discerning about when and where to challenge them.
Always stay in places well lit and populated. That's what. So that was from last night. If you wasn't here, you know, I want to come to you, Mike. You know, Michelle Alexander talked about this morning. When we kind of had breakfast with her, but also in the larger meeting about how she was inspired by the youth of Ferguson. That the youth of Ferguson, despite tanks, despite tear gas, despite M16s and Army officers, stayed in the street and forced America to have a conversation that America didn't want to have. What is it about? Is it St. Louis? Is it Ferguson? Is it like the young age? Because I know, when I was there, once it got dark, the older people wouldn't be around. It was primarily the youth at that point. What caused you and those brothers and sisters that you were with to stay in the street despite there being, really an occupying army in your community?
Well, let's state the fact that some of those young people slept on the ground in tents for over 48 days just to stay there. And it was a certain group, which is the Lost Voices, which is one of my best, friends, and we go a lot of different places. They actually would go out at 7 o'clock each day, and it was only 10 of them. And one of those young men was, and I particularly love this fella. He's so headstrong, but his name is Low Key. He's only 16 years old. But he looks like a grown man. Like if he was standing here right now, you would think he was 21, 22. But he's 16. How do you tell a 16-year-old to trust the police when every time he looks around, he get criminalized, he get pat down, he get looked at in a different way? So to answer your question is, it comes to this line right here. We're just tired of being tired. You're tired of the same old. If you look in our state, when you looked at us get tear gas, when you looked at us get shot with rubber bullets, you've seen 90% of white men standing in front of us. That is our police force. In Ferguson alone, there's maybe one black officer. All the rest are white. They don't live in that metropolitan. They live all the way out there in the boondocks somewhere. They come down here and they kill our young black men, our young black women. And I'm going to state the fact it is. They are so corrupted from the top to the bottom that we had a young lady named by the name of Kimberly King. She got pulled over for a traffic violation. She had a warrant. She went to jail. The next day, they called her mother and said she hung herself. I don't know what jail system you've been in, but any jail system I've been in, there's no way you can hang yourself. There ain't no way you can put something up there and hang yourself. Because it's already built to be a box in a bed. You don't even get a zinc, let alone a toilet. So you're going to tell me when to doo-doo, when to pee, when to wash my hands, when to bathe. You're going to tell me all this, but you're going to tell me a young black woman hung herself for a traffic violation? I don't see no right in that. There's no justice for that. The officer's still on duty to this day. The officer that shot Kajing Powell is still on duty to this day. Darren Wilson will still be on duty to this day if it wasn't for these people that came around, CNN, MSNBC, all these people that wanted to do, and media don't help us no bit at all too. They give us 2 minutes of fame and then they criticize us, call us thugs, gangsters, saying we ain't worth nothing. If you really look at it, we got tear gas, we got shot with rubber bullets, but just the fight in us kept us out there. And I want to state that fact. If you guys would just take a minute to stand just like we stand, we wouldn't have this problem today. It comes from the inner homes. If you would go to your cousins or your nephews or your nieces and tell them the same way you feel about us and make them feel the same way, we won't have this problem. It starts at home. Who are teaching you to hate us? Because we don't hate you. Look at the mothers. You kill them, you kill their kids, and then they get right on TV and apologize. But I got to give the utmost respect for Earl Gardner's wife. She ain't apologizing for nothing. She told him, I don't apologize, and I ain't taking no apologies.
She said she wasn't sorry.
I ain't sorry for nothing.
I do have check. Yeah.
Okay.
Is Ebony going to join us again? Are you going to come? I got a question for you. And because you mentioned Kimberly King, and it's been a dialogue lately, especially particularly around it's been many black women that have been killed by the police. Women like Aiyana Jones in Detroit, Michigan.
She was 7.
Right. Yeah, that's a child. I'm sorry, that ain't no woman. Thank you. Rakia Boyd, who was killed by a Chicago police officer that didn't even have to offer a defense before he was let go. And there's a petition actually to get him removed from the force. He's still on the force. It doesn't seem like a lot of times it doesn't seem like we necessarily rally around black women or women of color that are victims of police brutality. What can we do to make sure that we uphold these names, the names of women, and make sure that it's not, this conversation around police brutality is not male-centered?
Well, I recently saw someone that suggested that the reason why the media doesn't speak on the cases of police brutality towards women is because there's no real way for a police officer to justifiably say they were afraid of a woman. So they don't mention it because you know, there is a constant flow of imagery to make the black man seem dangerous. So whether consciously or subconsciously, when they say, I was afraid for my life, you're more likely to believe it, whether you want to believe it or not. But for you to say, for a male police officer to say he was afraid of a woman,
or like you said, a child, or even
a child, then you can't really justify that. So they don't bring it up because they won't be able to really excuse it. So that's one. Another issue is that we still have a little bit of, not even a little bit, patriarchy and misogyny in our culture. So people don't care about women. They don't care. And Miss Gail back there, she's working on the issues that affect women when it comes to police brutality, because we are the ones who have to support our men when they're in jail. We are the ones who are left behind when our men are killed, when they're taken to jail. We're the ones who have to, even if you want to go back through everything, through civil rights and Reconstruction and slavery, we were the ones who had to be left behind with that pain of watching our men and our children be taken and beaten and killed. And sold. Of course, and still with the pain that we ourselves had to endure ourselves.
And I would also argue that, you know, everywhere I've gone throughout this country watching this movement is young black women that are really taking the lead and organizing the rallies, organizing the marches, organizing the actions. And so I think that's important to hold up as well. You know what I'm saying? The activism of particularly young black women all around the country engaging. I just got a text from a sister who was also in Ferguson named Tenjiwe that she was like, okay, the hashtag now is Black Spring. That we have in Black Spring, and that on Saturday it's going to be kind of a nationwide a day of action around police brutality. So I don't know if that means we can do something here, but I guess we work on it. For Roger.
Real quick, I mean, one of the things that, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the things that I've read was that the federal government does not have an accurate count of police killings when it relates to race. So that might be something that as an organization or as a coalition that we can start to kind of push to have a better record of police brutality in cases and police killings based upon race. We have the bigger number of how many per year, but we don't have any real statistics or data.
There's actually and I don't have I forgot the site. Somebody actually just sent me the site. He's very heavy on Twitter. He was in Ferguson for a lot, and he's in Baltimore now named D. Ray, but they actually have a police map. So now you can actually go to this website, and it brings up kind of the map of the United States. You can kind of see where the police killings are happening. There's been over 300 police killings already this year, already in the United States. Another statistic where there's been more black people killed by the police since 9/11 than victims that died in 9/11. That's another statistic, just a kind of a sobering stat. So I want to just end with a question for everybody, and it's really around this idea of resistance, because I think that's what Ferguson and Baltimore represented. We saw protests in other places, but in Ferguson and Baltimore, we saw actual resistance. And we kind of are told when there's resistance that like the violence isn't the answer, but it seems like the attention, we were able to find out how oppressive the police and the municipality of Ferguson was to black people because of the resistance. We were able to see the desolation and the poverty of West Baltimore because of this resistance. So how do you kind of, I guess, how do you juxtapose that? How do you tell us, like, don't be violent, but then a lot of times, only when that violence happens, do we get, like, the real attention on some of these other issues? What are we supposed to do?
You want to start off with that?
I think the resistance is twofold. There's a couple of things that Piece by Piece Baltimore we're going to be working on. One is that we understand that in unity is greater power. So one of the things that we're going to do, that we have started doing, is reaching out to the Latino and Hispanic community. And they are just as impacted by this issue as black youth are. And because that is the case, we're going to connect with them in Baltimore. I talked to some folks up in New York City with the Justice League. They had their solidarity march yesterday, and they're showing their sign of support. But we're going to connect with the black and the brown community to make sure that they're on board with it. So in Baltimore, we're connected with the Casa de Maryland and other organizations that work with that particular community. The second thing is that we're going to help to keep the gang truce, quote unquote, the street organization truce alive and strengthened, because that's important. In my CNN interview, Carol Costello asked me, do you really want gang members to be a part of your group or your work? Absolutely. Because those are the young men and young women who have the strength to stand up. And I made the point that if you have the strength, if you have the energy to destroy, you have the energy to build. So the point is, like, we're going to make sure that we incorporate that. That's where the resistance is. The resistance is not just political, because I think that gets mumbled with a lot of political jargon. The resistance is, let's empower and those who are marginalized and disenfranchised, and let's bring power to that. And I feel like once we start there, then the enemy of our interests is going to have to deal with us, because we're going to have like 500,000 young people out there, and half of them going to be gang members, and the other half is going to be Latinos.
I like that. Go ahead. I'm going to go to Ebony, and then we'll end with you want.
This is a question that I've been asking every time it comes to black people responding to what we're going through. We're told to be peaceful. We're told to be nonviolent. Why do we have to be peaceful and nonviolent in the face of violence? Nobody ever explains why we have to be peaceful and nonviolent. And the thought is, well, more people are going to get hurt. We already getting hurt. So who are we really afraid of getting hurt? Us or them? Because this country was not taken nonviolently. We have, ever since we've been here, we've been under the threat of violence. Do we need to have a nonviolent, organized rebellion? Yes, because the threat to our lives are more than just, it's economic, it's educational, it's political, etc. But at the end of the day, people are getting shot and killed, beaten, raped every day. and you're telling us to vote. You're telling us to boycott. You know, like, I don't get that. I don't understand why we have to be peaceful and nonviolent when we're constantly being faced with violence. When 9/11 happened, did anybody say, let's just pray about it? Let's be peaceful and nonviolent with with these countries that we go to all the time, that we send our. And I made a status that went around. I'm surprised I didn't realize how big it was, but about the mother who was hitting her son, and everybody's praising this woman. And I said, okay, right now he's a rioter, and excuse me if I might cry. But like, if you put him in a military uniform, you give him a gun, you send him overseas, then he'll become a soldier, and she'll be proud of that. And I said, well, I guess black men can only fight when white supremacy and imperialism tell them to. So we support violence all the time.
Yes.
But when it comes to us, it's be peaceful. I don't agree with that at all.
Powerful words.
Well,
Thank you.
I'm going to take it in a whole different other. Let's clap that up. Clap that up. Clap that up, because that's powerful. And I'm going to take it a whole nother way. I'm going to talk to the color of my skin. I'm tired of y'all selling us out. There's too many house niggas running around here. We want to complain about the white people so much. But when you got people that will get on CNN and call us thugs, starting with the President Obama, who we helped get in office, I have a problem with that. And people say, well, why you call them house niggas? Because that's just what they are. They've been house niggas since a long time ago. And I don't care how nobody take it. I'm just telling you what it is. You might not like how I say it. I'm just strong with my words. But I'm tired of our own race selling us out. If we can get our own race to stand with us, because it don't just take y'all to stand with us. It takes our race to stand with us. Because we have people in power that don't do nothing for us. They'll come to Ferguson. They'll come to a Baltimore. They'll get on your news channel. They'll get on your CNN. But when you say, oh, let's help for real, you ain't nowhere to be found. So let's talk about those people too. It ain't just about y'all. It's about them people that's claiming they for us, but ain't doing nothing for us. So let's state that fact too. We want to go around here and say, oh, we in a race this, we're in a race that. But hold on for a second when it comes to our own people selling us out. Let's talk about that too, because that's a value point to this situation too. When you got your own people killing you, when the police officer black and he's shooting a black person, I have a problem with that. And we so quick to say black on black crime, but there's white on white crime, there's Asian on Asian crime, because we ain't over in Japan killing nobody. Let's state those facts. These are all facts here. You know, we want to always say, oh, well, the white person did this to me too. But then you got your brother on the side of you saying, well, yeah, I work for the white person. Some of y'all won't even walk out y'all jobs. Y'all rather work for the white person. Sit there and take their money all day. But when it comes to bringing a dime down here, you won't bring a cent down here. And it goes for even y'all. You say, oh, how you can help us? How about you help us push this movement? How about you support us? How about you do those things? That's how you can help us. I'm doing a march right now. I'm going up to Washington on May 9th. I put a GoFundMe up. I put it up and I said, help the mothers get to Washington. And that was 3 weeks ago. I only got $100 of my money I put in there. I started it off and I ain't seen a cent yet. But I ain't complaining about it. But what I'm saying is, there's so many people that's quick to say, oh, what do you need? How can I help you? And then as soon as you give them an answer to it, oh, well, I got to wait till next week. Or I can do it maybe a month from now. That's the problem I got. So I don't want to just say, oh, it's white this, it's white that. What about us too? You know, because we get in those police systems and we turn white. Let's state those facts. That's why I call them a bunch of house niggas running around here. We get them house niggas out of office and put some real black people in office, then we won't have this problem. So let's state that fact.
All right. Thank you, brother. Yeah. Give it up. Give it up. Give it up. Give it up. It is interesting that we have a black president. We have we've had 2 black attorney generals, and yet we still can't get justice in these cases. And so of course that causes us to think, well, obviously it can't just be a skin color thing. there's a systematic,
Yes.
there's institutionalized and systematic changes that we have to make. And I thought, just echoing what Michelle Alexander said earlier today, do we have time for questions? John? Oh, somebody said no. Okay. No. Well, can I wanted to end with this video. Why not? Yeah, go ahead. Oh. Well, can you? What does that acronym stand for? Okay, thank you.
So in December of 2013, this past December, Congress passed the Death in Custody Reporting Act, which is going to require all state law enforcement to report the race, gender, and circumstances of anybody who died in custody or while they're in holding. So that's on the way, and that bill has been signed by the president, and it's a step in the right direction. So I just wanted to mention that.
Great.
Thank you for bringing that up.